Hello everybody and welcome back to Adventures in Metaphysics. So this past weekend I did two things that led to the creation of this video. First, I of course watched Lisa Papez's latest Mass Market Madness video. And if you haven't seen this before, this is a series she created in order to showcase the mass market decks that she's loving at the time. And this is one of my favorite series that she does because I just really love seeing mass market decks get shown off, because as much as I'm an indie deck lover, sometimes the availability and the price point just isn't super attainable. So I really like seeing all of these new mass market decks that are just a little bit more accessible for everybody. And so the second thing I did, as you can see behind me, is I rearranged my shelves so that way I could put all of my decks on display. And this is my ADHD tarot tip of the day, because if you're like me and things are truly out of sight, out of mind, I used to have all of my decks in a drawer in my desk, which really worked well and it was very neat. I did like that, except that I found that I was forgetting entirely about some of my decks because it was out of sight. So on Friday night, I think it was, I just got the random urge to take everything off of these shelves so that way I could have room to put everything here. So I've been sitting and getting to see all my decks, which I really love, and I just had the idea of not doing it exactly the same way, where I'm showcasing just a few I like at the time, but I really wanted to make a video where I could show all of the mass market decks that I have. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the first decks, I'm gonna go through the Oracle decks, which are on this bottom shelf, and these top two are tarot. So we're gonna start with the Oracle decks, and I wanted to show off a pair that is a bit newer to me, and that is the Illustrated Bestiary and the Illustrated Herbiary. Now, I have actually had the hardcover book of the Illustrated Bestiary for probably a year and a half now, and that copy is actually over there, so I can't currently reach it. I should have thought to bring it over, but anywho. The reason I got it was when I first started reading tarot and we were starting to go back into work a little bit at the library, we have this really cool book sale section. And someone must have donated just the book of the Illustrated Bestiary, and it caught my eye when I was walking down to the children's room, and I grabbed it, paid the $1 for it, and brought it home immediately without really even looking at it, because I saw that it was an Oracle book, and seeing that in our library is just pretty much unheard of, so I was super excited. But of course, whoever must have donated the book either lost the cards or maybe kept the cards for themselves, which totally okay. But I didn't have the cards, I just had the book. So my original thought was, oh, I'll just do, I think it's called bibliomancy, where you flip through the book and just land on a page and that's your message for the day. Because I heard the cards that came with the book were pretty papery and thin, so I didn't really feel pulled to seek those out. But I've seen a lot of people talking recently, and I had no idea that the creators came out with just the deck of cards in a much, much better cardstock. So as soon as I saw that, I knew I had to get the deck because I really loved the book, but I cannot say I followed through on the whole bibliomancy idea. Again, I think probably what happened was it wasn't getting kept with my decks because it didn't have a deck to go with it, and out of sight, out of mind. So now I'm really, really excited to have this really beautiful deck to go with it. The artwork is just so amazing, and I really love the key words, key phrases, I'll say, that we get on top. And a lot of the animals are ones that are pretty familiar to me, which is a pretty important thing for me when it comes to animal decks. I have this thing about animal decks with animals that I can't readily see, and I know I just went past the orca, but for some reason, those animals in this deck don't bother me too much because a majority of them are animals that I would see. I love this tabby cat. That is such a cute inclusion. Yeah, I really love this deck, and I planned on just getting this one. I knew I wasn't gonna get the crystal one because that's not super my thing, but I was a little bit into the herbiary. But I kind of thought the backs would be different. I didn't really look into it because I knew that if I was going to get the herbiary, I would have wanted to use it in conjunction with the bestiary, not really on its own. So I was in Barnes & Noble, and the way they package it lets you open the box in the store, which is really exciting. So you can see the book, you can see the cards. They were wrapped in plastic, but I could see the backs. So I figured I would just check, and I'm so glad I did because the backs are the same. So you could get 1, 2, you could get all 3 and make yourself this super deck almost, which I think is really a fun idea. This one's actually still in order. I've not used it yet, but I'm really excited to make a bag to hold both of these and kind of customize a deck for myself, which I think is such a fun idea. And I've seen a lot of people doing that recently where there's these decks that either come with extra cards or oracle decks. I think it's the Seeker Oracle and the Messenger Oracle that also have the same backs. You can kind of customize your own deck, which is such a cool idea. And it's also mass market, so pretty affordable. So these are the illustrated bestiary and herbiary decks. All right, so next I think we have the Green Witch Oracle. And this one, I don't know. I'm not super sure about it yet. I bought this one used off of Facebook Marketplace with the original intention of using it alongside cooking. So I thought it would be a really fun idea to pull out the cards with the ingredients I was using to sort of piece together a message for the meal. And I don't know if it's just that it took a pretty long time for it to get to me, so I don't know if it's just that the idea didn't seem sparkly anymore or what, but you know, I really have to give it more of a try than I did. But I think it has, I watched walkthroughs, but I feel like it has more flowers than I anticipated rather than vegetables and herbs. But what I do like about it is it has cards like this one is potato, and I feel like a lot of other plant-based decks don't include common vegetables like that, and so I did really like that, and so I have to give it more of a try. But I thought that would be a really fun idea, but otherwise I'm not super sure. I don't know if I would feel pulled to shuffle this and pull cards as a regular oracle. I don't know. But it is a really, really fun and interesting deck. And again, it includes a lot of fruits and vegetables that you probably eat on a regular basis, which a lot of herb decks, I feel like I don't totally relate to because some of the herbs are just foreign to me. So I don't relate to them on a personal level. So that is the Green Witch Oracle. All right, next I think I have 2 that we can go through pretty quickly. So that's what we're gonna do. I've got the Whispering Woods little mini Oracle deck. And this is the ones put out by, I think it's US Games. They have a bunch of decks that are this similar size and shape and look. So they all have the same backs with this image. And the fronts are just a keyword with an explanation underneath, a little sentence. And so I really do, I like this little deck. I think because I have this one, I don't really feel pulled to get the other ones. I just really enjoyed the woodland aspect of this deck. It goes pretty well with a lot of the tarot decks I have, since I am a huge sucker for animal decks. But this one, it's pretty straightforward. I really like the keywords. I do almost wish the artist does an amazing job on these backs. The artist is Jessica Lee, I believe. And so I feel like every time I use this deck, I'm like, oh, I wish she would come out with a fully illustrated oracle deck with these keywords and these little woodland creatures, because they're so, so cute, and she does a beautiful job. But I do like this as sort of a little mini deck, and it comes in a really nice magnetic box. So that is the Whispering Woods Oracle. And also quickly, just because I feel like I've shown it a couple times now, is my Goddess Love Oracle deck by Wendy Andrew. This one's put out by Rockpool, I believe, and it's just a beautiful deck. It has Wendy Andrews' artwork, which I love, and it's just a really nice, comforting deck. I included it in my last video as my Dating the Tarot video as my hug deck, and that's really what it feels like. It's very wintry, I find. Not all of the cards, but has an overall wintry feel, so it's kind of nice to have during those darker months when I feel like, I know this is what I do, but I feel like I hear a lot of people saying that in the winter months they tend to do more shadow work. And so having a deck like this that is just nice is a good contrast to that sort of time. So that is the Goddess Love Oracle by Wendy Andrew. Up next, we have the Witchlings Oracle by Paulina Cassidy. So this one, I love this one so much. It has the keywords, a little message at the bottom, and then the guidebook has, I think, at least 3 per card suggestions for spells to go along with the keywords, which is just really, really unique and cool. And these witches are just so cute. I love pulling this one out when I feel like there's magical work I want to do, but I'm not exactly sure what, or I have a slight idea or an intention, but I just need some ideas on what to do. This deck is really, really good for that. It's really fun to pull as an oracle and look at those suggestions for spells and maybe go from there, or don't do the spells at all, just look at the message. It works in so many different ways. It's really, really diverse in that way. So this is the Witchlings Oracle by Paulina Cassidy. All right, so next I'm going to do my 2 pretty seasonal specific decks, and this will be our switch into tarot as well. This is my last mass market oracle, and it is Seasons of the Witch Yule Oracle. Now, I really love this series that Rockpool is coming out with. I don't have the Samhain one, but Rachel does. I've seen it before, and it's really, really cool. I'm sure I'll probably get a copy once October rolls around again. Ooh, that is dusty. Yikes. But I really loved using this, not only for the Yule season, but all winter long. I think it really carries over well throughout all of the winter months. So this was really, really fun to use, but I pretty much know that once winter is over, I'm not going to pull this one out until next winter, which is okay. I don't really like to have a lot of seasonal specific decks, but I do think having a few is just fun. I love holidays and seasons and switching things out, so I do really like to have a few of them. So my other one is the Halloween Tarot in a Tin. Now this one, I mean, I love the tin decks. They're just too good. The mini size and just being able to throw them in a bag and not worry about it. This one is so fun. I'm a big Halloween person, so I knew I was gonna like this deck. But actually, my older sister got this one for me for Christmas this year, which was really exciting. And she's very big into knitting and the yarn community, so a local yarn store to her is apparently, I've not been yet, but I'm hoping to go soon. It's a mix of a yarn and antique store. So the owner just sounds like this really awesome woman. And she, I guess, reads tarot. And when she has a deck that she just doesn't really jive with, it just doesn't work for her, she'll put it in stock in her store at kind of a used price. So that's where my sister found it, and I love having decks that have an interesting backstory like that. I really love getting used decks just because I feel like it adds a story to it. It's the same reason I love thrifting or anything like that. Antique shopping is because when someone says, you know, like, oh, where'd you get that? It's so fun to give the story behind it. So that is the Halloween Tarot in a tin. Oh, we got a special visit from Stevie before I can move on to my next one. This cat loves the spotlight. So anytime she hears me talking, even if it's just to my phone, as I'm doing now, she wants in. All right. So my next deck I have is the, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name. Herb Crafter's Tarot. Herb Crafter's Tarot. And I love this deck. This is one I actually tend to keep by my recipe box next to my stove. And what I love doing with this is what I said I kind of intended for the Green Witch Oracle is before I start cooking or right when I'm done cooking before we eat, I will shuffle and pull a few cards to kind of get a message for the meal, which has been a really, really interesting way to be able to use this. But this deck is really cool because we get the usual name of the card along with an accompanying herb. So it really adds these interesting layers to both the usual meanings of the cards and interpretations of uses for these herbs. And it makes it really interesting to learn more about them. So I've really loved it for that. Apparently I have it all mixed around. So that is the Herb Crafter's Tarot. So the next one is another one of my very first decks, which actually I'm realizing now I don't have the cat tarot here because I realized I left it at work on Friday. I brought it with me to use for our fun Fridays. And I must have left it, which is a bummer, but I do love the cat tarot. That was my first ever deck, as I've mentioned before. Anyhow, this deck I got really early on as well, and that is the Dragon Tarot put out by US Games. And this deck is just really, oh, there's a guidebook. Really a unique one in my collection. I'm not someone who's usually super drawn to dragons. I think the idea is really fun. And I do like to see pictures of other people's decks, but I don't tend to get too many mythical creature decks. But something about this artwork is just so different, and I think I just really enjoy how this artist portrays dragons. I think it really coincides with how I kind of see them in my head. So I've just always kept this one around, and I think it's one I always will. I really, really love it. I'm hoping I'm getting in the Smoke, Ash, and Ember deck soon. I haven't gotten my shipping notification yet, but I see other people getting it. I'm itching. I'm itching for that. I'm hoping they don't compete. I don't think they will. They're pretty different, but it'll be really exciting to have multiple dragon decks. I never thought that would be a thing, but as soon as Three Trees Tarot says they're doing something, you have to get it, right? So that is the Dragon Tarot. Okay, next up we have the Crow Tarot by MJ Cullinan. And this one's put out by US Games. And this deck is just amazing. It was my first more collage style deck, which I didn't think I was gonna enjoy. But as I've mentioned before, I just have some really interesting experiences with crows or just other blackbirds. We've been getting a whole bunch of grackles in our yard lately. I got a really cool picture of one on this trail cam I've been leaving out recently where the sun was hitting it just right so you can see all the colors in the feathers. That was really cool. But I really unexpectedly love this deck. It's not one that I think I would ever look at and be like, oh, that's so me. But it's something different, and I think that's good to have. I really like to have a variety. I think that's the whole point of me really having this collection, is to just give myself variety. And this one is just so, so unique. I really love having this one just to kind of connect to that crow energy. It's kind of that like air element. So this is the Crow Tarot by MJ Cullinan. So next up on the shelf we have the Affirmators Tarot, which is really just gonna get an honorable mention. I'll show the cover, but it's really not my deck anymore. My boyfriend does not pull cards very often, but he's interested in it. So when he does, I don't know why, this was the first deck of mine that he read with. And so I think he just really loves the animals, and I think he particularly loves how funny the guidebook is. So he wants to pull with this one every single time, to the point where he started just saying like, oh, get my deck. And so ever since that, this is his deck. It's just not mine anymore. I've tried reading with it since he started reading with it, and it just never reads right for me. And I think it's just because the deck is like, well, we're his deck now, so that stays on the shelf for whenever he wants to use it. He knows where it is to grab it. But next we have the Forest of Enchantment Tarot, which is just a great one. I really love this deck. This one really switches around. Oh, I'm getting some glare. We're gonna try and hold it at an angle to not get that so much, but this one really switches around a lot about the classic tarot structure. So we have all different names for the minor arcana, and I believe most of the major arcana too. But this one comes with a really great large guidebook, which I think I actually have right over here. If I can reach, oh, I did. So this is a Llewellyn deck, so it comes with that classic big guidebook, which I love. I'm gonna have to get creative on storing, but, because again, out of sight, out of mind. But this one, you get the full color image and these really detailed descriptions of every card, not just the majors, which is really awesome. But I love the storybook feel of this one. I really like it for connecting to that fae energy. I don't believe I have any other, no, I don't really have any other fairy-like decks, maybe besides my Tarot of the Gnomes, which we'll get to, but I don't really feel drawn to many of them. But this one, I love the artwork. It's just really different, and again, storybook-like, which I really enjoy. So that is the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. Okay, we're gonna go through these next ones a little bit quickly, but we have my Pixies Astounding Lenormand, which is my only Lenormand deck because this one I feel like just fits all the needs. I don't use Lenormand too much, so I don't feel pulled to get another deck, but I really love the colors, how straightforward the images are. And I really love that the guidebook gives the positive and negative correspondence, because that is what I use Lenormand for a lot of the times when I'm reaching for it. And this is another tinned US Games one, so you just can't beat that. You can't beat that tin box. So this is my Pixies Astounding Lenormand. And my other sort of deck that doesn't fit into either the Oracle or Tarot categories is my Symbolon deck. And if you watched my Dating the Tarot video, you know I have some feelings on this one. I'm never going to get rid of it. I know that. But I don't like it. I just can't seem to get rid of it. I'm sure there's a reason I'm supposed to have this deck, just because of the strong pull to not get rid of it, because I am a cleaner outer, a spring cleaner. I clean things out like no one's business. I don't really get super attached to many things. Some of my decks I do. I kind of personify them a little bit and get attached, but if it's something I know that I don't love, that I don't do that with, I have a very easy time just like, nope, you're gone. But this one seems to want to stay. I don't know why. I'm sure we'll figure it out sooner or later, but this is the Symbolon deck. Next up, we have the Happy Tarot, and it's exactly how it sounds. This one became a really fast favorite. I love how colorful it is, how Candyland it feels almost, and just their happy faces. But it doesn't overdo it. In the cards where it doesn't make sense for them to be smiling, they're not. Which I think is really a nice touch, because that might have been a little bit distracting. That's what I was worried about and why it took me so long to get this one. But it's one that I just really love. How can you not like that? It's so happy. So that is the Happy Tarot. Next up, I have the Good Karma Tarot, which is actually one I won in a giveaway. So I don't know that I would have gone and bought this one on my own accord. I'm not usually drawn to modern feeling decks, ones with many people in them, if I'm gonna be honest. Something about that seems distracting to me when I can't really picture myself in them. And oddly enough, I guess with animals that works. We won't go too deep into that. But this one I really like. I like the colors. I think what it is a lot of these figures instantly remind me of a certain celebrity, which isn't distracting for odd reasons. But I really enjoy this one. It's just something different, and so I've really liked getting to try this one out. And it's really diverse, which is great. And it's just a great reader. It's an easy reader. So this one is the Good Karma Tarot. Okay, so this is the Tarot of the Gnomes, which I got at the same time as I got the Happy Tarot. And this is one I really like as well. Again, I think it's that storybook feel. But this one really takes the cards in a direction I'm not used to. But we do get keywords. Yeah, we get keywords at the bottom here, so that helps a lot. I really enjoy using this one, almost like an oracle. But I love gnomes. I'm a big gnome person. So I really love the illustration style of this one. It just really reminds me of books I read growing up. So this is the Tarot of the Gnomes. Next up, we have the Deviant Moon Tarot, which is just not one I ever thought I'd be holding in my hands at home. This is just so not my style, and I never thought I would enjoy it. But something made me want to give it a chance. I thought it'd be a really interesting shadow work deck, and that's exactly what it turned out to be. I really ended up liking this deck, as creepy as it is and scary as it can be. I think I almost like the kind of adverse reaction I have to the images. I don't really have another deck like that, where it kind of is that instantaneous like, ooh, I don't know about that. And it really is just so interesting. I find myself really enjoying to look at the pictures. And again, I think it's just that it's different and it gets a reaction. So that is the Deviant Moon Tarot. All right, and here we've got my big honker of a deck, the Gorgonz Tarot, which I use this one for my moon readings. And I've been really loving it for that. The pictures on these cards are just really interesting and have so many layers to them. And as much as I kind of debated seeking out the smaller size, I think I kind of like having it bigger. And it might just be that, first of all, this is the special card you get, which is so cool. I love this card. Anyway, I think since I only use it around, you know, twice a month, I'd say, you know, for the new and full moon. Sometimes I'll do other phases, but mostly new and full. It doesn't get cumbersome and kind of feels special to have this big deck, where I think if I was trying to put it into more regular use, it would start to get annoying, but I do really, really love this deck. It's just a really unique one. So that is the Gorgonz Tarot. All right, and last but not least, I just had to run to my work bag to get this one because that's where I keep it, is my mini Everyday Witch Tarot. And I mean, look how mini that is. I feel like, let me find, oh, I've got my Halloween tarot still here, just to give a size reference, because the Halloween tarot is already pretty mini. And look at this size comparison. These are so cute and tiny. I love using these cards, and they're just perfect, a perfect size to have in your bag. And I've never had the full size, ooh, let me get closer there. I've never had the full size version of this. I really wasn't sure if it was gonna be one that I liked, but someone was selling a used copy for a pretty low price because the box was just damaged beyond use. So it came to me loose, which is totally okay. I just put it in another bag. And I love this deck. And it's funny because actually this is my deck that I bring to work. I put it in my work bag and it pretty much stays there. And so I'll use it for readings with my coworkers, and they all really loved this deck as well. It's just a fun one, and it's a fun size. I really love this one. So this is the mini Everyday Witch Tarot. All right, well, thank you so much for hanging out with me while I went through all of my current mass market decks. I'm going to link below Lisa Papez's latest Mass Market Madness, because if you haven't checked those out, you just have to. They are so much fun. And I'll also put, as always, Rachel and I's Instagram, as well as a link to my Etsy shop. I just put in some fun new spring colors if you wanted to check those out. But I hope you all have an amazing rest of your week.